Hey, what's up, guys? It is Rapmark here. So, with my review for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So, what did I think of this one? Uh, well, let's go with it was disappointing to me. So, honestly, this is the start up of Phase 5. This is our first like actual introduction to Kang, the Conqueror, and it was it was all over the place. Like, oh my goodness. So, what I'll say, on the positive notes is I loved, the performances of Paul Rudd and Jonathan Majors. They were great. They held this movie up, like, really up. So, to the point where it was enjoyable. I love the range of Jonathan Majors. I love Paul Rudd's, just boyish charm. Um, and yeah, like, that's pretty much it. I mean, Ever, there are so many characters in this movie, and with the exception of like the main ones, obviously Cassie and Hank and Hope and what Janet. Um, that's about it. And even then, like they didn't really have like with Cassie, it was just like there were some moments, there were some good moments there. I'll get into more in spoiler. I'm going to try to avoid spoilers in this section, obviously. Um, and Scott, as charming as he was, he, it was so much about I love Cassie. I love Cassie. It was it was a bit beaten on the head. Um, but yeah, like Cassie, I mean, she was fine as a character until all of a suddenly she became like badass enough to take on Modoc, which is in this film. Not a spoiler. There have been memes. It's in the trailers. Um, I'll get into more in detail on that. Um, so Janet is just like, I get what they were trying to do, but it just made her just unlikable as a character, and it's just like I wish you had opened up a little bit, because so much of this could have been avoided, planned for, dealt with in a more satisfactory way had you said something. And again, I get what they're trying to do. It just was executed really poorly and made her really unlikable. Hope, with the exception of saving Scott a few times in the movie, it seemed like she didn't really have too much to do in this film. Uh, she was kind of as opposed to other Ant-Man films, she was kind of a weak pillar in this one. And same with Hank, likable, but not as present. And man, it really went into his love of ants in this. I mean, you knew that from the previous films, but man, it just beats you on the head. Like, it's like this movie had a problem. Like, it found a theme, and when it found a theme, it didn't just play it or whatever. It literally beat you on the head with a hammer with it. Uh, let's see. Let's talk about visuals a little bit. So I did like some of the visuals for for the quantum realm. Some of the things looked really great, with the exception of when you have stuff moving, then it started to get kind of blurry, and then there was some really bad CGI, which I'll get to also in spoilers regarding a character. My God. And it the way it was shot, it was really kind of weird because they're kind of doing a lot of 3D panning shots, 360 shots, which look great when there's nothing like interrupting the visuals, but as soon as anything goes on in the background, it just looks bad, and that's unfortunate. Because typically I like Marvel's CGI, except when they overdo it. Like, I don't like it with their characters, though some of them can get away with it. But when it comes to their backgrounds, I do like their CGI. This one was really, really inconsistent. I mean, story. This story was kind of all over the place. The tone was all over the place. I mean, you have like in the other Ant-Mans, it was fun and a relatively self-contained story. Tied in obviously to the larger Marvel universe, but largely a relatively self-contained story that's a lot of fun. And they try to do that for this, but again, you're dealing with Kang the Conqueror. Uh, Ultimately, I think that whole premise was just a little too wide ranging, um, for an Ant Man movie. I don't think Ant Man was the right hero to introduce Kang the Conqueror. And yeah, because there are times where it goes like dark, brooding, and then other times again where it tries to get that light-hearted, like this is fun kind of thing, and it's just like it doesn't really work because the premise again is just too large, I think, for just a standalone Ant-Man film, and I think that's the problem. I get they wanted it in the quantum realm. I get again what they were trying to do, but the writing just wasn't there, and it, they had way too much fun for how dark and how big the threat was for this, in my opinion. I did enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. This is a fun movie, but it is a movie that it's sloppy as hell. Like, and it wasn't really breaking it. Like, I didn't care for the like quantum people. I know some of them. There's one that has like a freaking beam on his head, the jelly one, no holes, which yeah, you'll have to see the movie to get that one. Whatever. Uh, but yet the elements within it were so fun. Like there's a cameo of Bill Murray in here, um, which went into perfectly how again lighthearted this was taken, which is fine, but then I don't know. Like personally, again, it just felt a little too. The stakes were a little too high, the enemy a little too powerful for Ant Man, and it just didn't fully work for me. Uh, but it was still fine. I probably would have still given this like a 7 or an 8. Uh, but then the third act happened, and at that point, it just completely just went all to pieces. Like I'm just like we'll get into it at the end, but I mean the story was just so all over the place, and you just didn't feel the chemistry as well as you did with other movies. Again, because I think they were trying to show you too much. Because again, I don't know anyone from the Quantum Realms name. No idea. I know the main characters' names. That's it. Everything else is just like whatever. And then there's like moments where most people were laughing, and it wasn't meant to be a funny thing. And then there were things that were supposed to be funny, and it's just like this is super cringe. But yeah, honestly, this is a very disappointing start to Phase 5, unfortunately, is how I'd regard this as. Um, Again, Kang is this huge level threat, this multiversal level threat, and there's just so much inconsistency to the character. Not that the actor was to blame. Again, Jonathan Majors did an amazing job with Kang. But the way they wrote him, the way they did his power, like, it just, it made no sense. It kind of disinterested me in it, and it makes me worried for Phase 5. Because, again, this does not make me excited for Kang. It doesn't, unfortunately. And then, of course, there's the two after credit scenes, which we'll get into in spoilers. So, honestly, what would I give this? Unfortunately, I give this a 6. Absolute 6 out of 10. So, anyway, yeah, I think this is definitely better than Eternals. Eternals is still by far the worst thing Marvel ever did. I don't even remember what I gave Eternals at this point. I know I reviewed it at some point, but I don't remember what I gave it. No, I do now. It was a 6. I think I was. And honestly, I think I was too overgenerous with Love and Thunder, because I believe I gave that one a 7. It deserved a 6. Like, this one was better than that. This is easily within, like, the bottom quarter of Marvel stuff. And there's like 40 something out. And it's just like, man, how many of these am I going to record? How long is this going to last? Because it's been a while since we've had a billion-dollar Marvel movie. They've been kind of, lackluster. And in spite of, what Disney's been saying and Marvel's been saying about Phase 4, it was a massive disappointment. It had no big baddie. All it was doing was introducing new characters. That's it. That was Phase 4. And it was done in such a generic way that, yeah, all of Phase 4 was kind of a disappointment. Even though there were standouts that were actually really good. Loki, WandaVision. There were good things to be had in Phase 4. But as a phase itself, it was disappointing. And they were very disingenuine about what Phase 4 was really all about. Again, all it was introducing new characters. So, yeah, 6 out of 10. I think that settles this for the non-spoiler review section of this. So, I'll be back in the spoiler section. So, till then, I will see you then. See ya. Hey guys, it is Rapmark here. So here with the spoiler section of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So the first thing I want to point out, and this is the really bad CGI. Let's talk about MODOK. So, man, it looked bad as hell. This was probably one of the worst CGI effects I've ever seen in my life. it was it was just so it's this giant head. It's his face that's kind of, you know, tapped down, and then these tiny baby arms and legs. It's just like it would have worked if it was always in his armor, but he was constantly taking off his mask, and it's just like, please stop. Please. It looked awful. It was cheesy. And MODOK itself was a freaking joke. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. In the comics, MODOK was, you know, not really an alpha level threat by any means. You know, but the backstory was better. And he at least was competent. Like, he did kill people. This MODOK is Darren Cross, the villain from the first Ant-Man, who survived. I mean, and you know, there were memes about this. Like, it was in the trailer. People who paid attention, even though it was for like maybe a couple, maybe 3 frames, it was shown in the trailer. But yeah, it's just so weird. Like, he's just so over the top, and you just wonder, why is King dealing with this guy? It's just so cringy. And then there's a point, like, you know, he is this killer who has killed many a rebels, who knows how many, killed so many people, and then Cassie, who it is shown in the beginning does not know how to properly fight, is able to take him on, and then it just becomes, and then at the end when she takes him down, which I was also like, really, come on, just like, wherever you try to be, stop. What am I supposed to be? Just don't be a dick. It's too late. I'm a total dick. And it's just like, what is going on? What are you doing? Like, again, I can understand if they wanted to use him as an Easter egg, and, you know, he was only here and there. But, man, they used MODOK so much. It was cringe as balls, man. It was awful. And then at the end, oh my gosh, I'll get that at the end, but oh. So he kind of does die in this. I'm assuming so. Maybe not. Who freaking knows at this point? But yeah, it got weird. It's just like, you're a brother to me. And just this weird dying monologue that is just like, you're trying to be funny, but you're like, again, force feeding it so thickly that it's just making me want to cringe rather than laugh. All right, and then you have, once again, Kang. How did he get here? So the other Kangs were apparently becoming self-aware, you know, of the multiverse and all that. And they were starting to use time like children, you know, threatening to destroy it. And so he was going to cull them, is essentially what it was. So they sabotage his core. He gets trapped. And then that's where Janet comes into play. So Janet's stuck there, runs into Kang, and they try to get the multiversal power core to work. And it's really weird. Now, this is some lore nitpickery right here. But it's just like, okay, I get that they sabotage it, so... But again, he made this technology, you know... So why can't he build a new one? Why doesn't he know how they sabotage? I mean, it's kind of nitpicky stuff, but at the same time, it's just like this seems a little inconsistent, and yet him being centuries past anyone, because if you remember from Loki, from the Immortus type variant of Kang, he's from the 31st century. So yeah, I'm just like, this makes no sense why she gets it. She knows how to do it. He doesn't, but I don't know. It kind of showed they're working on it together. But again, it's one of those that it's just like, I don't know about this. So he gets ready to escape, but his technology is so advanced that she's able to, it connects straight to his brain, his memories, whatever. She touches it and shows that he is Kang the Conqueror. He freaking cleanses people, planets, whole realities are just annihilated from him. And the other Kangs, they turned on him because they didn't want to be cold. But yeah, it's just so inconsistent, because once again, and I'll show it to, and at the end, he's just like, he's beaten by ants, which I'll get into later as well. And how? Like, he is taking out, rebel insurgents left and right. The whole trailer scene where he's like putting his hands out, just like, ah! It's cool. It looks cool. And then he has a shield. I mean, he's showing that he can flick people out of the air even though they're tiny. He can hold people still, like literally control people. Again, he cleanses realities. And the way they have him beaten is just so, like, what are you doing, Marvel? This makes no sense. And again, that's in that third act where everything that you're kind of holding on to just sort of falls apart. And you're just like, whoa, what did we just experience? Because that was not what I was expecting or hoping for. But yeah, so going back to the Van Dynes, they get sucked in. And they get separated. So Ant-Man and Cassie are together, and Hope, Hank, and Janet are together. And I mean, you see these amazing scapes. Like, you have these crazy mushroom forests, these with insane beasts, these desert landscapes that looks like it just curls in on itself. Like, just really amazing stuff. And then this grand city. But once again, like, you put anything in that, and all of a sudden the gloriousness of it just sort of shrinks, and you're just like, this is not as good as I think you were going for. And I think it comes from these 3D 360 shots that they're doing. It just doesn't quite work as well as I think they're hoping it will. So anyway, Hope, Hank, and Janet, they go to find this friend of hers that she was in the war with, Bill Murray. He's fun, he's giggly. Apparently is now working for Kang and is a scumbag and is going to take them in. But man, there were a lot of jokes about, him and Janet's history together. It's just like, are you human? It's just like, I'm human in the ways that it matters. And there were a lot of innuendos. It's just like, I'm close enough. I have a pee-pee, and I put it in your wife, and it was funny. I'll admit that part was funny, but it just was like, this kind of fun. It just seems so out of place for what should be like the big bad of the Marvel Cinematic Universe after Thanos. So anyway, Cassie and Scott, they go on this crazy adventure. They're almost eaten by this sort of sun-like creature, and they get captured by the insurgents, where they have to drink this goo to make it so that they can understand them. And yeah, you meet Goo Person and Beam Head. I don't remember any of these people's names. I don't care. There's a leader of the insurgents. Don't care about her. Like it's awful. Like, and then Cassie wants to help so bad. But again, why? You don't care. There's no investment here. And this is a long movie. This is about a 2-hour movie. And it just doesn't work, the story they were trying to tell, while still having it be fun, but at the same time introducing Kang the Conqueror. It just... yeah, it just didn't fully work out. But anyway, her and Scott get captured by Kang, and then there's this again, showing how amazing he is, how he tries to talk him into helping him out, and then he's just like, if you don't, I will kill your daughter and make you watch that moment over and over again until, like, that's Kang. That's Kang. But, and again, he's able to levitate her. He's able to push him back. Like, this guy's powerful, especially with this suit. But anyway, so as they go, so he has to go, and essentially what Janet did to escape is he took the power core, she took the power core and put like some things that blew it up. And it just blows my mind that someone like Kang doesn't like get Pym particles or anything. Like, it just seems so unfortunately lazily contrived that he couldn't do this himself after all this time. It just, yeah. But anyway, so he has to go in. He goes into what is a probability storm inside this thing. He has to shrink it down. And there you have, like, where Scott just splits off into a lot of Scotts. Probabilities. And then they're all fighting. And then suddenly, when Cassie says something, they all turn and they all help him. And it's like, because they're one mind. He throws one up there, and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It burns out or phases out or something. I don't know. And he's about ready to fall. But then Hope comes in, and she's also splitting. They're grabbing, and as they become, I guess, more single-minded in their purpose, I guess. It's not very well explained at all, because there's thousands of Scotts and Hopes at this point. But they all get sucked into one, and then they throw a bunch of these things, and it shrinks down, and it's all normal again. And I'm just like, why were they even needed for this? This doesn't actually make sense. This feels like This feels like it was a total MacGuffin, for lack of a better word. A total MacGuffin that needed to be de-MacGuffinized. Because, holy hell. So anyway, he gets it. Kang tries to get it. He essentially backstabs everyone. Instead of giving Scott back his daughter, he just takes the ball. Him and Hope shrink, attack him. He just flicks them. It's nothing. MODOK makes Hank crash. And Janet gets captured by Kang again. And then this is where you meet the ants. So there was a bunch of ants that Hank was working with, where they were really smart, making their own technology. They get sucked in with all the rest of them. And through some random freak happenstance that is not explained in any way, they go into a time dilation bubble where they went through 10,000 years of evolution, where they've created their own civilization, class 2 civilization. And it's just like, man, this is just getting so out of control and wacky. And yeah, like the third act, it just completely destroyed any credibility like this film had to try to build any stakes. So anyway, Cassie does escape. She gets into the jail, frees the captured insurgents, revolutionaries, whatever you want to call them. And then she, that's her plan. And so the leader, whose name I forgot, they break everyone out and they have to get a message out. So here you go back again to Kang, where he does this monologue speech, the villain monologue speech. And then he's interrupted by Cassie, who's just like, everyone can attack. And you just see this huge wave of like rebels going through and fighting like his soldiers, which I guess are like robots or something. I don't know. I honestly am not sure what they are. It is not explained whatsoever what these sort of blue helmeted robotic sounding things are. But yeah, the whole thing with Cassie turning MODOK, that was cringe as fuck. How she was able to beat him was just like, yeah, I'm not buying that. You've not gotten that much experience to take on someone like MODOK. I mean, MODOK was a freaking joke, a throwaway character that, honestly, had it just been an Easter egg or something that was barely used, fine. But they really tried to use MODOK, and it just did not work for me. And the fact that he constantly was taking his faceplate off to show that terrible, terrible CGI, it just made it even worse. So anyway, after Kang comes out, he stops the rebels. It looks pretty awesome, but then the ants come and he does the shield and there's ants all around. And then what happens? MODOK comes in for no reason whatsoever, says, "My name is Darren and I'm not a dick." And then he breaks down his force shield and can't get started away. And I'm just like, how? There's no way. There's no way. They deliberately weakened his power level just to have that. And I'm just like, oh, why? So anyway, they get sent back. They use the core to do the portal, send it back. They all go back, and then Scott, Kang gets away from the ants, not explained. His suit is damaged, and he's just literally fighting. It's fist fighting, and it's just like, this does not feel like Kang the Conqueror. It does not feel like Kang the Conqueror. But yeah, he beats Scott. But then Scott, well, Hope comes through, knocks Kang into the core, and he gets stuck in the probability thing. Like, I'm pretty sure they didn't kill him. Like, if they killed him, that would be stupid because, and again, there's two end credit scenes. So, but first, so after he gets sucked into that, Cassie does the portal from her side, and it's just like, this is supposed to be a relatively complicated thing, and yet you're sort of cutting corners to make this work, and everyone makes it home. No one died. Like, the body count is so low. You know, none of the main characters die except for God. He shouldn't have been a main character, but the amount of screen time he got, yeah, he might as well have been. And yeah, that was the only main character to die. You know, there were a lot of rebels that died, but you had no emotional investment there. You don't care about these people. Yeah, it was just super bad. So anyway, going into, yeah, they didn't even trap Hope and Scott there. You know, it didn't feel like the stakes were that high, which is a problem because this is Kang the Conqueror. The stakes are high. Like, multiversally so. So anyway, we go into the first cutscene, and there you have like 3 main Kangs. One is Egyptian, one's like a cyborg, and one's like this old one with a whispery voice, sinister one, I don't know. And, you know, they're talking about how now that he's dead, and I don't think he's dead, but how he's dead, we have to stop them, or else they'll destroy everything we've created. And they summoned all the Kangs, and oh no, it just seems super generic. Like, there were some that were bowing, some that were yelling, some that were laughing. Like, a large part of them just seemed like complete and total animals, and I'm just like, what is this? This is not intimidating. This is actually kind of comical, which is not what I think they were going for. And then the last cutscene was essentially to tease season 2 of Loki, which I'm looking forward to, but it's just like, okay, so you have Loki, you have Morbius, and they locate another Kang variant, Victor Timely, and it's in the 1900s, I guess. And Wikipedia is still saying it's Earth 616. It is not Earth 616. Fuck yourself if you think that's the case. This is not Earth 616. I've read the comics. Got it all wrong. This is a different universe. Stop saying it's Earth 616. Anyway, Yeah, I'm just very disappointed with this. I mean, I hope they can pull it out, but it's one of those that we're just going to have to see. Anyway, the next one is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I am looking forward to. I am super excited about. Uh, and yeah, hopefully that will capture some of the magic that this movie just did not have for an intro. So anyway, I think that is it for me here. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.